to show you all the document outline. So in your script pane, the one where you're editing what you're putting into your Markdown document, in the very top right-hand corner of that, there's a little, yeah, could you point to it, Saras? There's a little button right in the top right-hand corner of that pane. Yeah, that one. And if you click on that, it opens this. And so that is just like your floating table of contents in your HTML document, but this is for your code. And it's a really, really nice way of navigating around your own code and your own work.
I just learned something.
Yes. So if you scroll down, Saras, in the document outline, let's show them where they can find, no, in the document outline. Yeah, that one's got its own scroll, and so you can go to the extension exercises there. But of course, you can also access the extension exercises from your table of contents in your floating table of contents on your HTML viewer. So you can see the script for that, but it's going to be probably more interesting for you to look at it from your viewer pane. So if you go to the table of contents that's floating there, and we don't have that up because we have the presentation version of this workshop up, but you have the floating table of contents in your HTML document in the viewer pane, and you can access the extension exercises from that. Cool, and Saras was going to just make a comment about some help documentation, which I think is great.
So we looked at the help file, but we didn't really look at, it's kind of overwhelming looking, so I was just going to demonstrate sort of hammily what we might do. Okay, so we're going to install packages. Okay, I'm going to give this a try. Let's see if it works. Okay, it didn't work. So then, my sticker is going a little bit closer to pink. And I'm like, this is like exactly what she told me to do. Okay, maybe I'll look at the help file. What is all this nonsense? Let's go to the bottom. Ooh, examples. Okay.
Oh, and you might want to embiggen the help pane. It's something that you may not have noticed is that you can, Saras, in the top right-hand corner of that, there's that button there. And if you press that, yep, it'll embiggen it for the full amount so that you can see more. And you can smallen it by clicking on the same button.
Okay. So as you get more familiar with these help pages, you can find more on there. Personally, I still find them incredibly difficult to navigate. It's a discussion that our people talk about a lot. Why is documentation so unbelievably unhelpful? However, I like the examples. And so we can see here that it might give us a bit of a clue. These package names are in quotations, so that helps us. We'll try it again. And if I'm being really lazy and I don't want to type out my code again, one little tip is you can use the up arrow to go to your previous commands. Okay.
Oh, that's such a good tip. I love that tip.
And if you highlight your thing that you want to put in quotations, you can just use the quotation button after highlighting it. You don't have to go on each side of it, because again, we're all very lazy in this world. Okay, and it worked. So there's one other thing that you might get with packages. You might get an error saying, failure with non-zero exit status or something. And I'm sure if you put that into Google, you'll find the answer. But if you're getting that, the reason is you haven't downloaded, or it hasn't automatically downloaded, the dependencies. So as Charles said, Tidyverse is a collection of packages, so there's a lot of other sub-packages that it depends on. So if it is required, if you're getting that error, then you can just ask it for the dependencies outright. And when you're putting in the code like that, it might give you some suggestions as you write, and that also helps you to be lazy. Now it's going to run for a long time because I didn't think to not run it. Oh, it didn't. Okay. Okay, so there's just a few helpful tips about that.
That was great. That's true. So something that, yeah, this is, yeah. So you can also install packages using the GUI. That is an absolute, thank you. And that was actually one of the things I was weighing up, whether or not I'd do it that way in the workshop. And I think I ended up going with installed packages because I wanted to introduce functions really quickly. But yeah, but I'm still on the fence as to whether or not we should use the GUI or whether we should use installed packages. I'm still not sure.
Use different CRAN or VTOL or
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I use keyboard shortcuts for everything, I forget about I actually had to learn some of the buttons to teach this workshop because I haven't learned all of the buttons in the interface because I just, type. Cool, all right, so let's keep going, shall we? So we've all installed the tidyverse. And now let's load the tidyverse. So the installation, I advised you to install the packages into your console, which is your calculator. It just, it does one-time calculations like a calculator. It doesn't store anything, doesn't remember anything, it just, runs it once. But if we want to load the package every time that we run the document, and what you'll actually discover, and you'll no doubt discover it very quickly, is that your document won't knit into the viewer pane as an HTML document if you don't have all the packages that you've tried to load installed already. So often you'll get error messages. I did, and I had to install a few packages this morning because I broke my computer at 3 a.m. on the weekend and then I had to reformat it. Somehow managed to delete a whole bunch of very important files. So now we need to run our first bit of code within our document. So far we've only run installed packages, but we did that from the console. Now we want to load a package and we want to use it every time we load this document. So we're going to write the code into our document so that package, tidyverse, that we've installed, we need to load it every time we try to compile this document because we're going to use tidyverse within this document. And if we haven't loaded it, it won't knit at all. So let's navigate to this part of your notes. Don't forget that we can use the document outline to navigate to the script. So the document outline, again, was this bit here. So I can jump around. So I was on extension exercises, and I want you to navigate to, this part of the note. So this says, your turn, let's load the tidyverse. And so I'm going to have a look in here and look for around that part. It's a your turn. And not quite. Let's go back a little bit. Installing packages. That's around that point. And I'm looking for, here we go. So I've navigated to that part of the notes using the document outline. And this takes you to your very first code chunk. So you can see it looks quite different when it renders in your HTML. This is where we can write code just like we do in the console. But it'll run every time we need the document. And you can also run the chunk itself just by itself to see whether that particular section of code works or doesn't work. So we're going to use the library function to load the tidyverse. So in this chunk, we're going to, I think it's there, yep, this is your turn. So in this chunk, let's load the tidyverse using the library function, write that into your chunk, and then press the green little arrow button on the top right-hand corner of the chunk to run that particular chunk of code. Oh, wonderful. Oh, it's great to have you. How are we going with, have we all loaded the tidyverse using the library function? Where'd you go? What about you, Ella? Hey, where's your laptop gone? Oh, yeah. I think we can do a little bit better than that when we get up to it. Have you tried following the notes for using the URL? Like if you have a look at the notes, there's some notes about... Yeah, yeah. Because I think the notes, I think they do the work, yeah. Because I just ran it in Sydney and everyone got the data. Yeah, so I think that, yeah, I think the way in the notes will be better. Yeah, but not to, what you guys worked out is stupid great, like it's not to, but I think you'll find this is better. All right, so we want to load the tidyverse. Here's where we can write code within this chunk right here. So the code we want to write is library, and we want to install the package that we want. How'd you go? All right, but we want to write the library function within the code chunk. And that is a comment, so we can write informative comments with a hash at the start. And that doesn't run, that's just a comment. So we don't want to comment this because we want this to actually run. So just like you did your library tidyverse, we can run code within the chunk. So let's type the library tidyverse into that. So that way that every time you load up the document, because here all you've done is load it once. It has nothing to do with your document. We want the tidyverse to load every single time you open this document, or every time you run it. And now there's a little green arrow right there in the top right. No, so if you just scroll a little bit, and maybe I think if you go a bit full screen, it'll make it much easier because there's like so many windows. Can you take this to the full screen? Yeah, there you go. So now if you go to that code chunk, I think you might need to just scroll up a little bit. Where we were?
Oh,
Yeah. And here there's a little green arrow. Not up there, just here.
Oh, this one.
Yep. And if you press that, it'll run that particular chunk of code. So it's just like typing the code into your console, but now you've kept your script for later, which is, like when we write long scripts, you don't want to rewrite it every time. Yeah. Beautiful. No worries. That looks awesome. Are you leafleting the witch that are? Nice. Yes. Awesome. We've got a leaflet project going over here. If anybody's looking for the extension exercise, someone is already smashing out the geographical map with the witch trials data. Very awesome. Yeah.
What's the difference of for me to have a new project and it's for new direction? New project. And whether I need to fill two of these brands?
Sorry, what's the question?
Yeah, this one I want to create a project, but it shows me that.
Yeah, you've got to put in a name for it. So here in the directory name, you've got to give the folder a name. Not quite there, in directory name. Yeah.
What's the meaning of this one?
So that's the name of the folder.
A name of the photo.
And then this is where the folder goes in.
Oh, so here is the path of the photo located in, and here is
The name of the folder.
name of photo. So
That's right.
It's a new name. If here I have this one photo, I want to save some files in this project.
Okay.
In this photo.
Sure.
So here select name.
Oh, yeah, but we've already got the folder existing, don't we? We don't need to create a new folder, do we? So if we go back, we
So
can
here
back existing directory, and now you can just select the one that you wanted to do. So if you go to browse,
So here,
Yeah.
browse is just
and now you can select the folder where you want it to go, and all your all your files will go into that. So and now open that. Beautiful, excellent. Create project. And so you can see how you're in data analysis user. So you're where you want to be. Has everybody loaded the tidyverse with the library function? Yeah? Let's import the witch trials data. So we're going to use read_CSV there was actually, I really should have saved the tweet. So I found, there was someone tweeted about the original function, the one that I was trained in, was read.csv. And someone tweeted, I quit science because of read.csv and pass strings as factors. Now there's a new function. Then someone retweeted that saying, well, I'm lucky I didn't quit science, and now read_CSV fixes all those problems for us. So forget about read.csv. We're going to use this newfangled read_CSV that fixes a whole bunch of crap that annoyed our coders a while ago, including me. So it takes in a character string, which we use quotation marks, and we can pass in either the directory of where the data is, where the whole sort of file path of where the data is, or we can pass in a URL. So we're going to grab this data from the internet. You've got the URL there. I want you to load the data, the witch trials data, using the URL. So we're going to open a code chunk right here in your notes, and then read the data in using read_CSV. And we're going to assign the data because we want to keep playing with this data set. So we want to store the data in our environment so we can play around with it. You're smiling a lot.
Feel
Ross.
free to
I'm
use
finding
them.
that very reassuring.
Oh, if you really knew me, you wouldn't.
Oh no. Am I appalling you? And you can call the witch data whatever you like, but I've suggested witchdat, but you can call it anything you like. You could call it cute puppies if you so chose.
So one of the great ways of being able to download your data
Yeah.
directly from the internet
I like to
is
use
you're getting
the
it
keyboard
directly from the
shortcut to
source
insert a code chunk, but
unprompted.
I'm sure you can do it from the toolbar as well. Control-Alt-I or Command-Alt-I if you're on a Mac will open up a code chunk wherever your cursor is sitting. So Control-Alt-I to open a code chunk. So let's open up a code chunk so that we can import our data. So unless you have a pink sticky note out, we're assuming you're very happy importing this data and having fun. You guys got the data? Was it better using read_CSV? Was it less complicated? Yeah. Yeah, I only just discovered it's so great because it takes care of a whole bunch of the formatting. So it sort of figures it out for you and goes, I think it's probably this. And one of the things that I really like about it is when it reads in the data, it spits out that little, here's what I think all the variables are. So it reads them in, it makes a guess, and then it reports back to you and says, I think the first one's numbers, I think the second one's logical, I think the third one's character string, and so on and so forth. Exactly, and that gives you this informed understanding of whether automation doesn't always work perfectly. Sometimes we need to clean it after the fact, but this way you know if it misread what data type that particular column was. So that's one of the many reasons I like read_CSV, but the whole strings as factors thing tripped people up for years. Like it's this legendarily annoying thing.
So read CSV
It doesn't put it anywhere unless you store it somewhere using our assign thing. Right, yeah. It's just smarter at figuring out the data types. Yep, that's all. Oh yeah, let's have a look. Let's see. Okay, so.
And I'm like, what do you mean unknown variables? And it's like, well, it's a character class.
Yeah. So have a look at your notes for the rename. New name equals old name.
Oh,
No, I stuff that up every damn time I use rename. Every time still, I forget. And that's why I wrote it that way with the quacks, because I keep forgetting. Every single time I do rename, I get them round the wrong way. So that's why it's like, new name equals old name. and don't just remember that rename is annoying like that. Like, yeah, you don't need to remember which way it goes. Just like try to remember that rename's a tricky thing that you might need to fiddle around with. Yeah. Has everybody got the data set? Excellent. Let's keep going. No. Has everybody imported the data? If you haven't imported the data yet, probably a good time to ask for a helper. Switch to a pink sticky note. So what do you see in your environment now that you've stored the witch trials data in something we've called, I called it WitchDat, you can call it whatever you like. What do you see in your environment? And what happens when you click on it? What do you guys see in your environment? Cake! Oh, we haven't done witch trials data yet. Aha! Yes. Whoops.
Sorry.
No, you're right. I was just going to slip on it. Don't forget you can use the document outline to navigate quickly. It jumps you around the script much faster than it was an absolute revelation when I discovered that. It's made my life so much easier. A lot of people said that at the last workshop too. Yeah, and a lot of people said, if nothing else, I walked out with that, and that was gold. So.
Yeah, I didn't know you could mark down.
Yes. Flicking, and from presenting to, that's why I was sort of, there's that emphasis on communication as well. It's not just about coding this workshop, it's more the whole sort of shebang of what you can get out of your R, and particularly the marriage of R Studio with R and the power of what we can do within it. So yeah, I was hoping that, good. Yeah.
What are we doing to get the to read directly from that URL?
Yes.
Do we need to do anything other than just have it as a string in the read file?
Nope.
Okay, we're timing out here.
Let's have a look-see.
Oh, yeah. It's just we tried twice and just come with error in open.
Oh. Do you think we've hit it too many times? Does anyone know about scraping the web and whether it...
Space.
Yeah.
I could try. Yeah, I could do it again. And
I would certainly...
yeah, just get this space out, you mean?
Oh, no, the space won't be the issue.
Oh, okay. I just try. Oh, no. Sorry.
Control enter would work.
But I'm concerned that... Oh, that's it.
It worked. Yeah.
Oh, how weird.
Just the internet was being too busy.
Yep. So what do we see in the environment? Do we see our WitchDat data set? And what happens when you click on it? What happens? You see stuff. And what you see is something more along the lines of a spreadsheet. Yeah? So you're seeing something that's sort of more familiar in a table, spreadsheet, Excel kind of format. So remember, that was where we started. This lovely man here, what's your name? Connell. Connell? That's an unusual name. How do you spell that? Connell. Connell here pointed out that the first thing we needed to do is you actually get the data and see what we have. And so one of the first things I like to do is just click on it and just see, unless it's a really, really big data set, because that can take a while to load up. But, for a small one like this, you can just click on your environment and just have it pop up and see that, you see numbers, because sometimes you can just see gibberish. If there's been some kind of error in, maybe it's comma separated data, but you assumed it was tab separated or the other way around, it can cause all sorts of funky issues. And so I find this is a useful sanity check to start with. Right, let's keep going. All right, we're finally ready to do some data analysis. Let's get going. So today we're just going to touch on a few tools and techniques that we use in exploratory data analysis. You're probably experts in many of these things yourselves. So I'm less interested in teaching you what exploratory data analysis is and more focused on how do we do it within the R framework and the R Studio framework. So we're just going to touch on 3 different areas that many of you probably know a great deal about. So how to summarize things, objects, models, and so forth. Wrangling and cleaning the data, which we've all talked a little bit about our battle and horror stories with data scrubbing. And finally, a little bit on visualization. Feel free to jump around. This is a workshop. You can always stick a green sticky note, form groups, and work on the extension exercises. Feel free to jump between any 3 of the things, but I'm just going to kind of keep progressing through the slides in an orderly fashion, but don't feel like you need to be hung up on my pacing. So summary functions. These are really, really handy. They're a bit scary at first because of the output, it sort of spits out all this stuff, but taking a while to play around with these is really informative. Like one of my questions was, what are the limitations of these data? Like, for example, maybe you guys can answer this for me because I haven't actually investigated, I can't remember off the top of my head, but what is the time frame? So when what is the earliest year that we have? Do we have the years? And what is the latest year that we have records from? So let's try using the summary function. Summary is a really, really good function to learn in R because it interacts really nicely with lots and lots of complex R objects, like statistical models, for example. So that's one of the main reasons I wanted to introduce this function specifically first. Because many of you will not just want to do exploratory data analysis, you'll also want to run some models in R. So run your summary function, and from the summary function, can someone answer that question for me about the time range of the data set? I'm genuinely interested. The years, like I'm interested in when does it start and when does it end? I'm expecting you guys to be able to answer this one for me. Yeah, you're answering. You can do into this one. What are the years? So I'm interested in what's the earliest record that we have and what's the latest record we have. Like, what's the time period of this data set? Cool. Pretty. Yeah, I know. It's a BYO lanyard. This event. I know, right? So, and I was at Numbats recently, and yeah, take that to Miles. You take that to Miles and you tell him I sent you. So actually it was Claudia who gave me a coffee cup. Go to Claudia. I love her. She's so great. I got to take her out for a wine. So I went to this research group and they're like, wow, you really like ASAMs, huh? And I'm like, yeah, they're really cool. And he's like, you're a bit of a groupie, aren't you? And I'm like, uh-huh. And I think he was like having a bit of a go. And so I thought, just to own it, because I decided, like, I'm all on board with being an ASAMs groupie. I think Jacinta's one of the coolest people I know. Miles is one of the coolest people I know. I love these people. So seeing as it's a BYO lanyard, I brought my groupie lanyard. That's my lan, yeah. Hexes? Oh, everybody wants hexes. Like when in your events, like hard to get one. And people will say, oh, there's hex stickers over there. And you will watch like half the room's heads will whip around and people will, like, everybody wants the stickers. Yeah, I mean, how cool does my laptop look? Very cool. Here is where you're going to get stickers. Usually stickers, you get them from the developer themselves. So a big part of sort of sticking the stickers on is sort of saying I'm associated with these people because I met them personally and they gave me the sticker. So there's this kind of like, I'm friends with these people, or I'm friends of friends of friends of friends of, I mean, not the big ones like Shiny and ggplot, but like some of the smaller packages. And like I just got, Miles gave me one from his package today, and has he not given you? Oh no, he's going to kick me for mentioning that, isn't he? I know he's got limited left, so yeah. I don't know, but he doesn't have many. He only did a small print run. You can try asking him. Don't say that I mentioned it anyway. Hey. Yeah.
Should use console or the...
Well, it depends whether or not you want to see that summary every time you look at your document, or whether you only want to see the summary once.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, for this workshop.
For this workshop, let's put it in there. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yep. Yes. So if we go to...
Just for example, yes, yeah, okay. I want to create...
I'm actually, so I use that because I don't actually know. Let's see. Let's encode is...
Insert chart.
Insert chart. There it is. Yep. Thank you. Thank you for that. See, we're learning together. So you can also insert a chunk. We just figured out, this lovely man here and I figured out that you can insert a chunk by going to the Tools menu and choosing Code. And then the very first option is Insert Code Chunk with the keyboard shortcut that I pointed you to, Control-Alt-I. But if you hate keyboard shortcuts, you can also use the menu. So who can answer my question about the time period of the witch trials data? Oh, you're all still working on your summary functions. What's the time period of the witch trials data? Like when does it start and when does it end? Wow, that's interesting. 1300 to 1850. Yeah. So there we got that out of the summary. Now I want to introduce you to another summary function, one that actually I learned from Steph De Silva when I was going through her fabulous analysis that inspired this workshop. She pointed me to this new function. It's just like summary, but it's a little bit more souped up and fancy and has a couple of features that I really like over summary. But I thought I'd give you the two options to compare them. So we're going to install the skimr package, and then we're going to use the skim function from the skimr package on our witchstat data. So we need to install the package, which remember you can do at the console because you don't need to install it every time you load your document, but we will need to load the package into the document to use the function from it. And you're way ahead. Yeah, you've got it. Nice. And I'm genuinely interested in which ones you like better. I personally like the skim function better. So do you like the skim function better because it provides, so the skim function will give you these lovely histograms that show you the distribution of each continuous variable. It's a really nice feature. That's one of my two features. So that's, yeah, there's two things I love about it. That's one. Can anyone else guess what the other thing I love about this function is as compared to summary? Unique values? Not, what do you mean by unique values? Oh, no, but that's very cool as well. Anything else you can think of that I would love, love, love about the skimr output as opposed to summary? Sorry? Unique values, yeah. So Ben just mentioned that as well. Yes, unique values, and that's new for me as well. See, I'm learning about skimr. I just only learned this function myself. The histograms is one of the things. I like two things, and histogram is absolutely one of them. I love them. They're so cute, aren't they? Missing it, does it do that as well? That's awesome. Wow, see, I love this function. I just keep learning cool new stuff about it. Now, my favorite thing about this function, my absolute favorite thing about it, is that unlike summary, it's smart and it groups the variables, the summaries of the variables by data type. So it says, here's all the continuous variables. Here are all the variables that are strings. Here are the variables that are trues and falses. And I love that it groups them together because from an analysis perspective, that's often one of the first things we really want to know, is what is the data type that we're dealing with. So I love that skimr groups them by data type. What's that?
We have some doubles on doubles, and here in skimr we don't have double account. We have character, teacher, numeric.
Okay, so that's a really good point. So here it's telling us that we have doubles. So the skimr is telling us a more specific information about the numeric values. That summary is glossing over some of those details, and skimr is giving us a bit more understanding about the specific data types of the things that we have in our table. So let's wrangle this data a little bit. And this is where the pain kicks in for most people. So we've talked a lot about in this workshop that the data cleaning process can often dominate the analysis. Like I would say I spend 99% of my time scrolling and wrangling data. So let's change the name of a variable. This is one of the first things that Steph did, and I thoroughly agree with her. There's a variable called gadam0, which is not very informative. But it actually has location information, like the names of the places, which I'm using rather loosely because, as Steph noted, it's really a bit of an oversimplification. I love the way you phrased this, by the way, so I put Steph's full quote in because I just love the way you wrote this line, that it's a gross oversimplification of geography in the Middle Ages of Europe.
Rule number one of consulting, always be extremely exact. I'm great fun at dinner parties, just saying.
So we're going to call the country. Just we're just going to roll with that. I'm fine with that because like geography in the Middle Ages is super weird. So we're going to use the rename function to do this, to change it. But first we're going to meet something called the pipe, which certainly at the last workshop there were some people very keen for this component of the workshop. And do one of you want to jump in and talk to the pipe slide? I feel like I've been rambling for a while.
How many people have experience with a low-level programming language? Yes, so you're probably familiar with the concept of a pipe. So the idea of a pipe, for those of you who don't perhaps have a programming language, is that we can chain pieces of code together very efficiently. So the more code you write, the more likely you're to make mistakes in it, right? The harder it is to read, the longer it is, much like my reports. So using something like a pipe can help us chain chunks of code together very, very simply to make it easier to read, less mistakes. So one of the metrics of code quality is the number of mistakes per 1,000 lines. Less lines, less mistakes. So what the pipe here is doing is it's chaining a piece of code into a function. So can you see the percentage type slide? Quack. Percentage sign?
Quack, quack.
That makes up one operator. So an operator is things like a multiplication or division, plus or minus. The percentage quack percentage, that is the pipe, and it's an operator all by itself, that piece together. So what we do is we take some data table, so that might be just, if you're thinking about in terms of Excel, it's a sheet in Excel, it's like a 2x2 probably, and then that pipe will say, put it into the first argument of the function that's coming next. Now in this case, it's going to be the head function. So if you put your which trials data, whatever you've called it, which dat, pipe head with the brackets because you need somewhere for it to go. See what happens then. Okay, now we can chain whole big things together, but whatever you're chaining through goes off and lands in the first slot of the next function. Okay?
And there's more advanced ways to play around with that, but that's
Yeah.
beyond the scope of this workshop.
So anybody that's done data analysis before, what's the first thing you always do when you open it, when you have a new data set? The first thing I always do when I'm handed a new data set is I open it up and take a look, right? Because I am highly suspicious by nature when it comes to data. Did they send me the data they said they were going to send me? How clean is it? What's in there? I need to have an idea of what's going on. So the head function just says, look, we're going to take the first 5 or so rows and show you what's in there. And this is a very good way of saying, oh, has R read this incorrectly? Oh, this is completely the wrong data. Oh, oh, that's not good. That happens to me quite a lot. Has anybody ever watched The Good Place? It's a TV show on Netflix. Yeah. It's that moment where you're like, we're in the good place.
Oh, no.
Oh, we're in the bad place. So it's an important first check that takes you about 5 seconds and gives you a good idea of what you're dealing with. The other version of that is tail. So we can look at the head and we can look at the tail of our data set. And that's another good way of just saying, did we get as many rows in there as we thought we did? Is R reading weird bits of formatting that I did not see 14,000 rows down in my Excel sheet? Things like that can be very useful. So if you give that a go and make free use of the pink sticky notes, by all means, we are happy to respond.
And you may even want to run the head function in both ways, just to, convince yourself it really does do the same thing, even though we're using this pipe operator. The same thing's going on. Oh, let's put the quack quacks in a different color. All right, everyone's looking like they've done their head function happily. Is everyone feeling happy about the pipe and the head? I reckon we'll move on to renaming that column that we mentioned. So it was a little segue into what is a pipe so that we could pipe into the rename function. You find the pipe really useful? Ah, yes, that is an excellent point. So one of the most useful, my most useful tip, the one that changed my life, is Control or Command plus Shift plus M will give you the pipe. Really handy keyboard shortcut. For me, that is my number one favorite shortcut in RStudio. Control, Shift, M. That's right, isn't it? Yep, try it for me and just test it, because I'm going off the top of my head. This is my favorite. Control. That's my favorite. Most favorite keyboard shortcut ever, and I'm all about keyboard shortcuts. I've already booked in with one of my favorite programmers here. I went up to him and went, I want to sit down with you, and I want you to talk me through your keyboard shortcuts. And that's Miles. Yeah. So let's rename the column. We were interested in turning this Gadman gibberish thing into something that was a bit more interpretable, country. So we're going to take our data set, pipe it into the rename function, and we're going to change the name. And I always get the order around the wrong way. Ella and I were just talking about this, and I always get the order around the wrong way, which Ella had as well, which was the old name of the column is equal to the new name, and it will say, it will give you error messages. So here I've written it as quack quack, telling you that it's a new name is equal to the quack quack old name. What's that? N comes before O in the alphabet. I love it. Thank you. I'm going to try to remember that mnemonic for myself. Seriously, I get it wrong every time I use rename. How are we going though? Has everyone renamed their column? They're feeling good and cromulent with that? You guys good? Good. All right. How are we doing for time? So now that we've got our pipe function in hand, let's pipe it into a visualization. So, this is a very quick and dirty intro to ggplot, and there is the one thing I wanted to point out to you, sorry, before we leave the data wrangling, one more thing. Let's just go to our cheat sheets and open the data wrangling cheat sheet, and I just want you to see that the rename function is just one of so many things. You can add columns, manipulate columns, you can do all sorts of things. You can manipulate your rows, you can join data tables, and the data wrangling cheat sheet is particularly like a textbook for me. You know, like I deep dive into that cheat sheet. It is so handy. The visualization one as well. Those two are two that I'm pretty sure I still carry them around with me. So when you get to that data scrubbing frustration, which we will all arrive at some point in our lives, remember that there's that wonderful cheat sheet that you can go to ask questions like, how do I rename a column? How do I add a column? How do I square that column? How do I paste two columns together? All those answers are in your cheat sheet for data scrubbing and wrangling. This is a bit of a quick and dirty, like lightning tour of all the things we can do. Cheat sheets, yes. So that's from your help, cheat sheets, and then choose your data wrangling. Just like we did help, cheat sheets to find the IDE, the one to guide for how RStudio works, and then we looked briefly at the cheat sheets for our markdown. And there's also a cheat sheet for data visualization, which is our final topic for today. So ggplot 2 is this wonderful package. It's where I started with the tidyverse. I love it. I love the visualizations it makes. I'm really into data viz. I think it's super fun and super cool and great science. So what ggplot does, the function, is it takes your table, it doesn't do anything you can see. It just takes your table and turns it into something that R can understand as something that can be plotted. So let's just try that now. What happens when you pipe your which data into the ggplot function? Can someone describe to me what happens? Ella's making an interesting face. Don't worry about it. Okay, what do we see? What do you see? Oh, you're doing rename. Yeah. So remember we've got new name equals old name. Yeah. Don't worry, I do it all the time. What happens? What happened to you, Connor? Cool. What about you? What do you see? Right. Yeah, so we piped it in, and you get, in the viewing pane, you just get nothing. There's something that pops up, and here we've got it over here as well. You just got emptiness, because you've passed it in, but you haven't told it what the x-axis is, what the y-axis is, what type of plot. We need to tell it all of that information. So that's sort of doing nothing in the background. It's just setting up the Cartesian plane, and we don't even have x and y axes. It's just getting ready for you to tell it what those things are. So let's do that now. Let's get our x and y axes. So now we're going to add some specifications using a very special function, the aesthetics functions, which we call by AES, and inside the brackets we can specify what the x and y axes are for the plot. So what happens if you set x and y axes to choose two column names? Your choice. From the data set, what do you see? Do you see a plot yet? What do you guys see? What do you see when you pipe the data in and then choose x and y axes from the data set? So those are in your quacks. You've got to choose your and that's why I call them quacks. I figure if it makes people giggle every time you say it, then it's a good teaching tool. Exactly. So what do you see? Have you guys done it? Hey, you've got more going on in yours. You're ahead. So what we should be seeing is now your Cartesian plane, your plot will have x and y specified to whatever it is that you specified it to. If you haven't got to that point, you're fiddling about with that, trying to make sense of it, you might want to switch over to a pink sticky note. Cool. So did you get your x and y axes specified? Sorry? It's blank. Yes, that's the answer I want. So you've got your x and y's, but there's nothing there because you haven't told it what kind of plot to plot. So that we need to do that now. So far, all we've done is we've set up the plane, we've told it what the x and y axes are, but what is it? A bar chart, a line plot, a scatter plot? Who knows? We need to specify that for it. So we're going to use gmpoint. It's my favorite plotting tool. Scatter plots is just such a nice go-to, the scatter plot. And so, in my experience, scientists love a scatter plot, so that's what we're going to start with. So we build plots up with layers, and we add those layers. It's a bit like the pipe, but we use a plus symbol for adding layers to the plot. And you can add heaps and heaps of layers. You can just keep adding them with your plus symbol. You can fiddle around with what the labels are called. You can do all sorts of things. Yes, hello.
I'm getting my plot to come up, but it doesn't say there's a problem, and I feel like it might be...
No, that's beautiful. So right now, what you've done is, so when you pipe it in, what happens? Nothing. No. Because all you've done is take your data set and say to R, I want to plot it. And R says, okay, well, I'm going to take your data and I'm just going to convert everything into something I could potentially interpret as a table or a plot, but you haven't told it what the x-axes are, what the y-axes are. So now I want you to choose two column names. So if we go to the next exercise, it says choose two column names and your choice. And what happens when you pipe that in? Show me. Hey.
I'm just wondering if there is a cheat version of looking at the answer for the leaflet thingy.
No, but I'm happy to look at your code. I did it myself, so I can have a look at yours. But it looks like you had it down
I
too.
know my brain is starting to fry, so I could go through and like carefully check everything.
Oh
or
yeah, no,
just
let me have a
like-
look. Show me. You're over here. Oh no, you're over there. Oh, you moved. Or I lost you. Oh, you didn't move, did you? I'm just confused. Sorry. Don't mind me. This is literally our last thing. And then there's extension exercises if someone wants to. But yeah, show me your leaflet. Nice. That's interesting. It does seem huge, doesn't it? Okay, let's get rid of the sizing just for now because it's sort of, yeah, exactly. So like we'll troubleshoot the size after we've. Yeah, let's just run that and see what the map looks like at the moment. Nice red.
I guess that fried brain.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. No. No, the leaflet's a bit irritating within the chunks, yeah. Yeah, I reckon that it's interesting. So it's, you've certainly done it. Now it's just a question of like, yeah, exactly. And how can we? No, I mean you've done it correctly. It's just okay. So we've added the circle markers, and if we size them by this, like, so what we saw was one of the things I think is that there are different levels of zoom for the world map, and so at the moment it's zooming to the full world map, right? And then because all the points are clustered in this one spot, they're all overlapping each other, and because their size is, so this is where we start to play. So your code is completely fine. Now it's time to, tweak it to make it better. Yeah, you didn't do anything wrong. No, you're awesome. Nice. These are scatter plots. Excellent. Is it useful at all? Are you learning stuff here? Really?
I mean, the piping and all that is something I do for fucking.
Really?
Well, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well,
No,
it's
that's.
difficult to learn.
Oh, it is.
Work on the same laptop as you, but I'm still learning something. I'm actually using
Really? Oh, great. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are, because I saw the work you were doing and I'm like, you're so advanced. And
We were very much like thrown in the deep end when we started. So like a lot of like the little like base stuff we haven't.
exactly. And that was exactly, because I was also thrown in the deep end and no one ever gave me the gentle, just, how does it all work?
So I was like, oh, this is what it is, and it's kind of cool because now I'm being like actually.
That's what that is, well, that's just music to my ears. Thank you. Very reassuring. And our final exercise for today is adding a layer to the plot that adds a title. And then we have the extension exercises here if you want to play. We're happy to check out your code. I just had a look at someone working on this one, the leaflet package to plot it. Yeah, would you just double check? I need to know whether it's 12 or 12:30.
I think it's 12:30. Just see what we.
But I'll just go back to there, add a title layer. So we can now go into the unstructured extension exercise component. This is perfect timing then. Oh, good. Sure, go. Yeah, no, the missingness is great. Absolutely. Yeah. Sure, if you want to. Like, yeah, jump in.
How many people have noticed the missing data in this data set? Has anybody noticed that it's there? Has anybody ever had to deal with missing data in their analysis? What are some of the favourite ways that you like to deal with that? What did we do with missing data? How do we know it's there? Is there anybody that needs to know what missing data is to start with? So missing data in real life, you know how when we're teaching from stats textbooks we get beautiful little examples where everything is there? How many people have went over to real life data and went, oh, I used to do a lot of work in developing countries and we didn't have so many problems with missing this, but you know, interpreting data that's coming from real situations is often difficult. There's a fair bit of missingness in this particular data set. Does anybody know why?
You're on the job now.
Well, we could probably authoritatively say that the authors didn't just give up and just think, I'm done now. But they're drawing information from the historical record of sometimes 500 years back. So that would make sense why some of the data is missing. And that was one of the things that I looked at when I first explored this data, why that data might be missing. So going around the room, what sort of things do you do when you observe missing data in your data sets? I have in the past crossed my fingers and hope it would go away. That hasn't worked out very well for me. What's the basic sort of question you try to answer when you've got missing data? Why? Exactly. The why of missingness. I'm doing bad things to the microphone. So we have a pretty good idea of why data might be missing from this data set. It's called 500 years have passed, and the fact that there's any data at all is pretty amazing. Does that affect the analyses that we are going to go on and do? It's nobody's fault this data is missing. It's that classic answer of data scientists everywhere. It depends. Okay, so the next step is to find out why it's missing. Has anybody got any favourite techniques that they use to try and start to explore why data might be missing? Unfortunately, there's generally not a missing data answer box that we can go and have a look at. The thing that we want to have is missing data at random. The thing we can never prove is that that's the case. We can just disprove a bunch of causes. So one of the ways I go about that is to try and plot where this data is missing, because that's often a very good way to go about that. If you're ready for a bit of an extension, you can look at a package called Naniar, so Naniar, and that has a bunch of tools that are specifically designed to help with missing data and to plot missing data. How do you plot something that's not there? Well, Nick Tierney, who's actually around this conference somewhere, worked out a way. So if you're ready for a bit of an extension, have a look at that. It's a good one, and I'll be wandering around if you want to discuss that at all. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, let's take your laptop up. What was your name?
Mazita.
Mazita here has produced a bar chart that I think is really cool, so I'm just going to get her to come up and show us all. I really do. If you've got a cool plot going on and you've found something really interesting about this data set, please come and share it with everyone. They will want to see.
It would be Narnia, but copyright is still in there.
Is it really? Let's see whether I can get you. This is a beginner workshop. Some people have never made a bar chart. So it is special if they've never done it. Yeah, just stuck it on top. Trust me, maybe we can't plug it in. All right. I will type in your code. Okay. So here I'm going to wake my laptop up. Oh, that would be really cool. Let's do both. Let's do it all. So, come back. Okay. So So we wanted to do my first ggplot. So let's go down to this bit. Actually, I'll do it in the console just so. Oh, I haven't loaded the data in myself. I have to do it all because the slides are like the original. Oh, yeah. So bear with me. Because we couldn't plug the laptop in, we're going to import the data live. We're doing it in real time. So I'm going to get the data. And I'll just show my environment so we can all see it, right? Okay, so there's my cake object. It's the only thing I've got in there is the cake is the lie. But if I want to take my witchstat data and store it in my read CSV, I need to use the readr package, and then I can put in my URL. Oops. And I've put in double quotation marks by accident. Oh, that's interesting. I'll just... Oh, I am too. Thank you.
I did that too.
Missing the opening quotation. There we go. Boom. Got witchstat data. So I'm going to pipe that into... So remind me of your name again? Mazita. Beautiful name. Mazita. I'm taking Mazita's code and I'm just to demonstrate it to you. And what she's done, I think is very cool. So she's taken the number of witches tried and the number of deaths. Is that the one? No, we're going century versus centuries. This is cool. I like this. I really like this bar chart. I think it's very cool. And then one of you, GM.
So I did GM bar because that was like
Yeah.
what I thought it was supposed to be.
Yes, but then
bar,
that...
and then it comes up with an error.
And see, it's telling me that it doesn't know what the pipe function is because I haven't loaded the tidyverse. And it's saying, and you see that error message? I used a pipe instead of the plus. See, I'm making mistakes in real time. I'll do it all the time. And here's the plot that Mazita made. And I love this plot because what you see is that the carnage really happened in the 1600s.
And Mazita, you've just picked up on an important historical context here. Does anybody know what happened during the 1600s? It was the Lutheran Reformation, and different churches were competing against each other in terms of ideologies and so on. And that's the subject of the paper about how the witch trials were playing into these religious disputes in this period. So, Mazita, you just came up with a really important insight there. So,
Yeah.
we totally should have brought gold stars.
Yeah, we totally should have brought gold stars. That is gold star worthy. I love it. Very cool. Thank you, Mazita.
One of my favorite functions when I'm learning a new package or trying to understand something is the vignette function. And I'll write up the code for you.
Oh, it's
but
great.
most packages have something called a vignette, which is like a little chunk of information that shows you how you can go over the package, how it can be used, lots of examples. And rather than being really technical, it's pitched at the beginner user, someone that's never used the package before. I'll write the code up for
How are
you.
you guys finding it? When you describe, what difficulty setting do you play R on? Are you normal? Yeah, gaming low. Okay, cool. So you're getting something out of it? Yeah. Oh yeah, great to play it. No, it's a workshop. We want you to play around.
I was trying to plot this on that part.
Yeah.
That's character, not numeric value. So
Is it? Let's have a look. Show me your read underscore CSV output for reading in the data. Because it tells you what data type. When it reads the data in, it'll tell you what data type it thinks that it is. Oh, well, you want the URL.
oh
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, right? If we all, like the moment someone's watching us code, I don't know whether you lecture, but I lecture and I code live, and like every time I'm coding and people are watching me, my mind just goes blank. My first lecture in third year statistical modeling, I forgot how to write a function. I mean, like it happens. It was, and I just made this mistake in front of everyone. The quotation marks. Yep, exactly.
This is what happens.
No, so Sarah showed us a really cool trick for this. If you select the whole thing and then hit the quotation marks, it quotes the whole thing. Yeah, try it again, like just to practice it. So, because if you don't do it, you won't remember it. Yeah, go back and just recreate the process. Yeah, so select the whole, no, use your, so use Control Shift and arrow, that's it. And then, yep, go for it. I know. I know, it feels like it's going to delete it, right? Because in the other contexts like Word, it would, but not in R. Yeah, R kind of has its own little syntax of shortcuts, and we're all still learning them.
Also, I know.
Oh, of course. No, you're absolutely right. So sorry. I figured out why. The reason why it's returning it as a character string is because of the missing values. Yeah. So we can't plot the ones that are NA, so we might as well filter them out.
Which is when I'd have to do the as is null or whatever it is.
Yeah, and so we can pipe it into a filter and is.null. Yep. Or bang is.null. Let's do it now.
Because you create, it's like...
We'll write it into your script file so that you don't forget it, because you've got your notes, and we'll write it here, whatever. Yeah. So you've got your which data.
I've got a script here.
Yeah.
It's like so long. I'll call it like long, clean, whatever. What is it? You
whatever
actually,
you called
I want
it.
The vector first.
Oh, no.
No,
what we're going to do is we're going to filter it down, and we're going to start with the data set. Let's just start with the data, and we're going to build a pipe. So we've got our which data, and we're going to build a pipe that scrubs it and then plots it. Let's get rid of the long clean, in fact. Let's not store it in an object yet. Let's just run it there, just to see the output at each step. Yeah, cool. So there's our data set. We don't need to run that because we've done that before. Let's pipe it into the filter function, because the filter function will allow us to filter out those NAs. And if you press enter after you...
Actually, it's Control Shift M.
That's right, Control Shift M, and now press enter. And it's smart enough so you can go to a new line and it'll understand the piping. And it makes it so much easier to read, because as your pipe because we're going to build a longer pipe than two. So, so filter is your function, yep. And because it's a function, we're going to use the parentheses. And as you can see, the first thing it asks for is data, which is exactly what we're putting into the first thing. And now the next thing is the logical, thing, which is your is.null thing. So let's... Oh, but this goes inside your filter, because the filter's asking for, what are we filtering by? Yep. And you've got your bang in front of it? Yep. So
is that enough?
Let's see. Run it.
Actually, I'm not telling it what column.
Run it. Yeah, you're right. Actually, you're right. You haven't told it what column. So boom. Exactly. So let's put in the argument. So is.null is also a function. No. We can update our line of code. No, you're fine. You don't know. Look, did you see how many mistakes I made live coding? Yeah. You don't need to apologize about anything. So the is.null is a function, so it has the parentheses after it. So inside the parentheses is where we're going to put in the column that we're interested in. Yeah.
Okay, which is long.
That's right.
Can I do two at once?
I don't think so, but you can try. I actually don't know the answer to that question, so I would just try and see whether... Nope. But you can do both.
That was worth trying. Oh, yeah, I do.
So we can do it with an and. So, yep. I think we can do that. And this is saying, so it needs to be, this is two logical statements, so both logical statements need to be true.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so this is Boolean algebra, like it's just a classic, I don't know what your mathematical background, but this is just a Boolean statement. So if this is true, and you can have this or this, and so if it was or, we'd use the pipe, and for or, and the and is for both need to be true. Yep, so let's run that and see what happens. And now let's just...
It's only give me the NAs. Okay, so...
You've gone for null.
Excuse me, Charles, can I...
They're not nulls. We need NAs. Is.NA. Sorry.
just gonna grab a seat here.
Oh, yes, please. Sorry.
Use NA.
But this is, and now you're doing data sci. Like, this is my whole life, and it's, this is my workflow. This is my...
Can I put anything in there, or is NA an actual function? Can I...
Is.NA is a function.
So if they didn't use NA or null, in the coding, when they coded the data.
That's right.
Could I put anything else in there? Would I be able to, so is blank or whatever?
Yeah, there's all sorts of options and things to explore.
That's cool.
That's cool. So now let's see. And now it knows that they're numbers. So let's try running. Let's pipe this.
Going straight back to steal that code. Where did I have it? It was in, oh no, shit. That's right. It was in where was it?
And that's why you should be writing into your script file.
Well, I started off doing that, and then I thought, I'll save some time.
No, you're not seeing it. Doesn't save
I'll
time
go
at
back.
all. So there's nothing it's not save. It doesn't save you anything working
Not
from
at
the
all.
console. No, but it's like, but it's good to learn the experience.
Little mistakes.
It's
Easy mistakes.
but they're all mistakes that you kind of have to make before you get it. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I don't even know if this is going to work. It's worth a try.
oh, it's so worth a try. I'm so looking forward to seeing it.
So I've got
Yep.
ggplot, geometry data from you.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Because
that's a
it-
different way of doing it.
It's
The way I did it. No, it's great.
I'll show you the style up front.
Yeah.
Stole it from here somewhere. I think it was this one, but it was also in.
Ah, love it.
Digimap.
Oh, Digimap. Okay, cool. So
You can actually use that.
now we need to add the filter to your pipe.
Oh.
All you have to do really is delete the witch data at the start, right?
Oh, because it's going to re-import which data. Oh, okay. That 100% makes sense, and it'll follow on anyway.
Only if you're going to pipe it though. At the moment, that just stops that line of code there. So you need to add your pipe to pass it into your ggplot.
Oh my god! Actually, I wouldn't put it there anyway. I'd put it at the start of this, wouldn't I? Oh no, that works.
That's it. Now I'm not sure whether this is going to work for you.
Red hot try.
Red or try, but I enjoy. I love hubris. So I would recommend using. Well.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Let's just try this. For one thing, you've got data is equal to a string.
Yep.
Let's just get rid of that because your data is the witch data and you're passing it in.
Okay. That was straight from someone.
Yeah.
They reckon that Geom Polygon has a shitload of different maps.
Huh, very cool. Okay.
Cannot use GG with a single argument. Did you accidentally put plus on a new line? Where did I do that?
Yes, you did. There you go. So we got plus. Don't you love how informative that error was? Isn't that great? No, don't delete that one.
I was going to carry this back up and then delete.
Oh, yeah, you could do that. Yeah, it's just as long as the operator's on the line above. Oh my God, we have to tweet this.
I have something.
Oh, this is so cool.
I don't know what it is. It just looks
If you're interested in seeing some accidental art with a capital R, we've got a really cool example of it right here.
oh my god.
That is so cool. You have to send me that image so I can tweet about it as something that came out of the workshop. Accidental art is a real thing. People tweet about it all the time and blog about it because you make plots that look really pretty by accident. I mean, they're gibberish, but they're so pretty.
Why don't you go plug it in and put it on the screen?
Yeah.
Email it to you.
Or just, now would be great.
Yeah, grab it. See whether you can plug it in and show everyone right now. Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah, I love it. Oh, that's so cool. I think there's actually a Twitter account called Accidental Art, and it just posts pictures that people accidentally make in art. I love it. What was your name again?
Whoops.
Shit.
Oh, I'm
Kerry. Fantastic. Let's get you some. So there's... Yeah, just chuck it on top. And I think we've got...
Can I unplug?
Yeah, unplug that. And
Actually,
then...
that's display port.
Yep.
What's this?
I don't know.
Stick on.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, you might need to mirror your screens. I always forget.
Are you going to let me do it? Oh, here we go.
Look at this accidental art. So we were trying to plot we were trying to do a geographic map.
Do a geographic map.
Yeah. How cool is that?
It's beautiful.
Beautiful. If you don't enjoy your mistakes as much as you enjoy your successes, then life gets boring, right? Oh, it's so cool. So, no, I don't know. I would recommend checking out Leaflet. I think it will be a bit more straightforward. How'd you go?
Oh, it's just one of those sections. I don't think it's.
It's pretty cool. Nice.
Look like the circles are like overlapping.
Oh, well, if they're going to the same place, then they're going to keep plotting over the same point.
Okay, I didn't realize it was like lots of. I thought they had to just.
No. Legitimate question. Totally legitimate.
Yeah. Right. Wait, I think I maybe just don't understand what that was saying.
And then you sort of go, okay, well, what does that mean? Does that mean like a lot of people were killed there? And the super extension is to produce an animation of the deaths over time. It's totally doable because like if you write a function that'll filter it by a year or a century, whatever maybe a decade. I think there's also a decade column. So let's say we plotted it by decade. And you write a function that says, just tell me which decade to plot, and then ask it to do all of them iteratively, one after another, you're going to see the dots change over time, and that's how you build an animation. And you are so close to being able to build an animation. And that's where Shiny kicks in. Yeah, you would have seen the Shiny stickers, right? Yeah, like, so that's where, yeah. It can be very handy for these kind of things, yeah. Well, it's still here. Seems to be. Yeah.
The guy in the corner left. He said, look, I've used R before, but I didn't know about long-term, so I've got that and I'm going to use it.
Oh, great.
So,
that's wonderful.
you know,
Oh, no, that's what I wanted. You know, maybe people come in and out and pick up a couple of tips and, you know, like, yeah, that's how you want it to be. That's fantastic. Yeah, I've had lots of people been saying, at least, you know, because you can't pitch it perfectly. Oh, yeah. Do you want to show your... Yeah, do we have another accidental art to show? Oh, it doesn't have the HDMI port.
It would probably be super easy for you to just recreate it on the screen though. If you
That's true, yeah. Yeah, do you want to, shall we go? Let's go do it. Okay, so we're gonna work together to recreate your plot? Yeah. Or Kim, do you want to? Kim, do you want to do it? Good, like, just so they hear someone else talk through the code? Oh, that looks cool.
yeah, look at that.
Nice. That's one of my favorites, actually. Yeah, like plotting, yeah, grabbing box plots for, you know, like you have for each of your different, you know, levels of some categorical variables. Just such a wonderful tool.
You can get a lot of information from there.
Yeah. I will warn you in advance that rotating the x-axis labels is quite fiddly. So, back when I was, you know, when I was just starting to learn ggplot and whatnot, maybe I was about a year in. Anyway, it was my first interaction with Hadley Wickham. I tweeted that if I had a penny for every time I had to look up how to rotate x-axis labels in a ggplot, I'd have a diamond-encrusted monocle by now. And Hadley retweeted it and said, me too. So if Hadley gets stumped by it too, I think we can all feel okay about getting a little stumped by the rotation of... So you see how your x-axis labels are all overlapping each other? Yeah, it's a fiddly thing.
Right.
Yeah. But there's actually a package called the GG Easy package, which if you install that, it'll make the rotation of the GG axis labels really easy. Because that's what GG Easy does. But you have to use a very specific function to install it because we have to install it from the developer's toolkit. So if you want to figure out how to do that, just grab me.
So what we've got is we've got another...
Oh, do we need to just plug it in? Yeah? Oh, yep, so that's just, so that's been unplugged and we just need to plug the HDMI cable back in.
So just getting over technical, working through our technical steps.
Thank you.
So
So it's another accidental
I reckon
art.
the leaflet function is the way
using
to go.
Leaflet. So
Yeah, so
I know
if
some,
you go
some
with
of you have been
Leaflet,
working through
then it's
Leaflet, you
quite
create your
straightforward. So we can use a Leaflet,
map layer, and then on
install the
top,
Leaflet package,
this
and then I
plots
think it's the Leaflet
what is
function.
it, the deaths?
Let's figure it out together. But there are literally,
Yeah.
there are 3 layers to a leaflet. So
Yeah.
first we've
And then
got
using
the
colour
leaflet
red
part, and then
for
we've got
effect.
the add tiles, I think, function, and then the add circles. The add circles or add markers to.
So if
put in
anyone
your,
else is still working through the leaflet,
oh yeah, so and that's a leaflet map right there. It's pretty cool, right?
this was across all time, so. What I've done is I've just brought up the code on the screen, so if you are working through the leaflet.
Oh really? Oh, that's so
and you haven't
annoying.
quite got it yet. You can try this one. I'll leave it
I
there
think
for you.
it's leaflet, add tiles, add circles. Oh, nice. You found a nice.
No, I'm just looking at
Yeah,
the help
yeah,
page,
that's really cool. Yeah. Add tiles,
Actually, I was wondering
Yeah.
one thing. I was looking at one of the packages. Just hold on. This is called as this one. Oh, here it is. Yeah.
Oh,
This one.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
these are the very cool graphics. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fact that the package name is and it has this function GG miss upset. This package is released in recent one. That is this one, but this function I'm not able to find at all. Even the help file is not there.
That's right, because we haven't installed the package.
No, but I did.
Oh, you have installed
I
that
did,
package?
yeah,
Show
I
me.
did, yeah.
So you should go.
It's an upset R, and this function is
No, but we also need the.
ggplot too.
So the plot is coming from Upset R, but I think you need Narnia, because this is the Narnia package.
Yeah, so I have both at least.
Okay, oh, yep, great, sure.
So this function is working, but if I just simply put.
Oh, I see, okay,
That's giving me an error.
okay.
So this was with that missing variable, but.
Okay, show me the, yeah, go back to Nick's code again.
Which one?
The code you were just showing me. It's by our friend Nick. He's here, you can meet him.
Oh, okay, sure.
GG Miss Upset, yeah.
About to serve lunch like a minute. Let people know that if they're done, they can.
Yeah, good idea. All right. So it's getting close to the launch of the lunch.